Hi folks, I wanted to play some Esper Stoneblade today. Lots of folks have been doing well with Esper Stoneblade. Stoneforge Mystic has been sort of like an all-time favorite card of mine for many years at this point. I think, oh man, pushing 8-10 years on Stoneforge Mystic for me, I think. I played it to a pretty good finish at GP New Jersey one year in Legacy. It's one of my favorite cards. It hasn't really felt good for a long time, so I've been playing a lot more Jeskai, just like hard control lately. But there's a couple of reasons why I think people are doing well with Esper right now, and why I wanted to play it, and sort of the deck that I'm playing today. So if we look at the sort of threat package, we've got Stoneforge Mystics, Orcish Bowmasters. Orcish Bowmasters is basically one of the two reasons to be playing Esper right now. So we've got Bowmasters, Stoneforge, and then we've got the equipment package to go with it. So we've got Batterskull, Jite, and Kaldra. I like Jite in this deck. So a lot of people have cut Jite from their Stoneblade decks. It is the kind of thing where if the Stoneforge gets answered and you have a Jite, it's like not that good. But with Orcish Bowmasters, and I'm also playing some Samwises, and I'll get to that in a second, we've got more just sort of dorky little bodies that can hold the Jite and actually crush our opponents, ideally. So that's sort of the reason, and I've kind of been enjoying it. The other big reason to be playing black instead of something like red is for pest control. Pest control is this absurd card. So it's 2 mana, destroy all non-land permanents, mana value 1 or less, and then you can cycle it for 2 mana. So this is a card that can kill like Urza's Saga stuff. It knocks out multiple threats from Delver sometimes. It has applications against lands with all their artifacts, exploration, stuff like that. It's got basically the floor on this card is relatively low, and then the floor on this is relatively high, and then it's even higher than that because if it's not good in the moment, you can just cycle it away. Pest control has been absolutely nuts. So one of the things that I don't like about Esper in general is that with the sort of mid-rangey blue decks, if you're not playing red for something like Blood Moon, then you're pretty cold to lands, which is a deck that traditionally like really beats up on these sort of mid-rangey fairish blue decks. So that's kind of the secondary thought here is, so not just like lands, but also green white depths and turbo depths and all of that stuff. So I've got a playset of wastelands. This is a much lighter on basic land list than I usually play. But there's a reason for that. So I've got a playset of wastelands. I've got 2 copies of Samwise to recur it. Something cool about Samwise is that it can both recur a wasteland, but it can also recur a fetch land, can also recur like a Stoneforge or an Orcish Bowmasters if the opponent kills it and you have the Samwise up. But you can actually also loop Samwises, so they can become this really cool late game engine if you have 2 copies. So you find one and it like you put it into play and you get a land back, and then it can't be blocked, presumably by like bigger things. And then at some point you can find another one. And the way that this works, and I've done it in a prior league that I didn't record, is you can actually Samwise, legend rule your Samwise, and then return the Samwise that you legend ruled back to your hand. And what that does is it allows you to go up the stack of like the one ring ladder, and then eventually you end up with a Samwise or, another threat that has the anytime you attack with this thing, it deals 3 damage to the opponent. I don't know the exact ring on the exact text on the ring, but basically it's like can't be blocked by things that are bigger than it, and then when it attacks you loot, and then the third one is if it gets blocked by something, it kills that thing in combat no matter what happens. It has like the basilisk text, and then the third one is either when you attack or when you deal them damage, it deals them an extra 3 damage. So this becomes its own sort of like long game grind ability, independent of the other sort of like Stoneforge Mystic, Kaldra stuff that we've got going on. That was all sort of like a long-winded aside about Samwise, but playing this quantity of 2-drops, so there's a large number of like good 2-drops, whereas prior iterations of the Stoneblade decks, you'd end up with things like True Name Nemesis, you'd end up with a bunch of 3-mana Planeswalkers, and so you end up in this place where like you're trying to play a relatively controlling game plan with the exception of this random 2-drop, which you're exposing to removal spells that your opponents otherwise wouldn't be able to leverage. So we're sort of taking the inverse approach to that. So we're going heavy on all of these 2-drops to overload the amount of removal that our opponents can have. And then because we're lower to the ground than something like a Jeskai Stoneblade deck, we're able to play Daze in combination with these duels and be able to like actually apply pressure. And so the combination of Wasteland, Daze, Samwise can apply a lot of pressure to our opponent's mana base in a deck where we wouldn't necessarily otherwise have that ability. Removal suite outside of pest control, source to splash errors, and then I've got 2 copies of Prismatic Ending. Big fan of Prismatic Ending. I've got 1 Teferi. I've got the Batterskull, Cauldra, and then I'm rounding out the top end with Murktide. Murktide I don't typically like in Stoneblade decks, but because we're a lot lower to the ground, we're actually able to play a lot of games sort of closer to the tempo Delver end of the like fair blue spectrum than most Stoneblade decks typically do. Looking at our sideboard, we've got a couple copies of Thoughtseize, a Spell Pierce, and some Force of Negations. These are all sort of here for the combo matchups. The Stoneblade decks typically don't have great game ones against combo. We're relying pretty heavily on our playset of Force of Will, and some amount of the time our Daze will do something, but some amount of the time it won't. And so that's somewhere that we probably want additional interaction post-board. I've got an extra Prismatic Ending, I've got a Dress Down, I've got a Blue Blast, and I have a basic Swamp. The basic Swamp is here because in the main deck I don't think we really want or need it, but against opposing Wasteland strategies, something I really like to be able to do is to be able to play off of basics and then Wasteland them, and this creates like this effect where our opponent's Wastelands are dead because you can't Wasteland an opponent's Wasteland without getting 2 for 1. And we can Wasteland their lands. And so it's a form of almost a virtual card advantage where we're able to Wasteland them without feeling the impact of Wasteland on our end. And something that you may see in Delver matchups a lot, Delver mirrors, is where, depending on the texture of the draw, the Delver players Wasteland each other, and then it ends up in a top deck war where somebody just draws out of it first. And so playing 2 to 3 copies of basic lands allows us to sort of try and game through that in a sense. Moving on, we've got some Graveyard Hate. My preference right now is I've got a Spell Bomb, I've got a Containment Priest. These are much better against Riskaminator than the Surgicals are. So the thing with Surgical is that they can grief the Surgical, and then your Surgical, you don't have a chance to actually cast your Surgical. Whereas Spell Bomb and Containment Priest are both things that you can put in play. The Spell Bomb, you just spend a mana on it at some point, and the Containment Priest, you can play it in response to a grief or in response to something. And because the deck doesn't have a ton of removal, it's much more likely to stick in play. And then we've got Lavinia and Damping Sphere, again, for sort of combo matchups, but also as nods to Mississippi River, which is also a deck that is like pretty difficult to sort of play through. The Blue Mirrors and Beans I feel relatively good about. The sort of Stoneforge Mystic, Samwise, Wasteland sort of engine that we've got going on in the main deck, that's sort of the plan. Don't have a ton of tools for those matchups beyond like maybe Prismatic Ending, maybe some Thoughtseizes, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I've already run something kind of like this through a league, enjoyed it. I think I went 4-1 with that. But I just wanted to play some more of this. We're sort of in that lame duck period between the ban announcement where they banned Sticker Goblin and then Modern Horizons 3, which is upcoming in a couple of weeks. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy watching me play some Esper Stoneblade, and hopefully I enjoy playing some Esper Stoneblade, and hopefully we don't lose a ton. So, that's the goal. All right, here for round 1. We are on the draw. Our opponent has kept 7. This hand seems extremely reasonable. There isn't really anything to sort of complain about with this hand. It's an extremely keepable blue hand, basically. Our opponent is leading on an Ancient Tomb into a Hearse. I do not care about a Hearse. We can, at some point, swords that Hearse. I much more care about literally anything else. All right, question, do we spend this Wasteland to try and keep them off of mana? They've spent a resource on a Hearse that we don't care about. Bowmasters are maybe not the place that we care about. The other option would be to play a land, pass the turn, and then probably they're going to play something that we would want to force of will. So then we're going to have to force, or we'll have to brainstorm and hope to hit another blue card for force. I think I'm going to take this opportunity to wasteland them. If they are a land heavy hand, then this is something that we could get punished for, but I think that the more information that we can get, better that is going to be for us. I mean, they're almost certainly just going to be a like a Moon Stompy deck. I like seeing them just go Mountain as their follow-up. That I am a fan of. Drawing a Murktide is also something I'm a pretty big fan of. Opponent played a second Mountain, is passing. I think I'll just draw my card for turn. Daze is pretty good. Just gonna pass back, I think. The nice thing about Moon Stompy when they sort of stumble is that we can kind of just play reactively for the moment. We're pretty safe. They're not likely to be a Cavern deck leading on Unlicensed Hearse. I mean, I suppose that some initiative builds could be the One Ring. All right, they have one card left in hand. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fetch a basic island, I think. Yeah, I'll fetch basic island here. That's the most important color to get underneath of a Blood Moon. I think I'm going to put back... I think I'm just going to put back both of these Bowmasters, I think. And then I'm going to daze this One Ring. And ideally they don't... Their last card is not Spirit Guide, which it was. So we'll let them pay for that, and then we'll force this. And yeah, so force... And I'm going to pitch the Brainstorm here. If my hand is good, I typically prefer to keep Ponder over Brainstorm. And then here I put back Bowmasters. I don't think Bowmasters is where I want to be here. So I'm going to fetch, and I will fetch a Tundra just so that we don't show them black. I don't know, would I cast a Pest Control if I drew it here? I probably would. Okay, I'll get an Underground Sea. It's fine. The plan here is just to play Murktide Regent, clock them, and try and kill them in like 3 turns. They will have to draw pretty hot to get through this. Okay. They're gonna... Oh, right, they have the Hearse. Forgot about that. Here's me being like, Hearse doesn't matter. Oops. All right, guess I'll Ponder. Ponder into second Murktide, Daze, Force. I guess I've really missequenced this. I probably should have kept at least one of those Bowmasters. All right, put back Daze, Regent, draw the Force. No, I won't use this ability. Play out my Delta, pass the turn, and then we'll see sort of like what this looks like on their end. Rebel Master is fine. I'm going to make sure, so I'm going to fetch, and then I'm also going to put a stop here, still in their main phase. So we'll let the Rabble Master resolve, and then they can choose to crew the Hearse if they want to, which they didn't, which I think is probably the correct call there, because it's the difference between a 4/4 Murktide and a much larger Murktide. Replay the island that they know about, and then let's delve away our stuff and get a Murktide into play. They're drawing off the top. We have a Force of Will. We can't cast our Force of Will right now, but this is a like fade a turn or two, probably be okay. The only thing I'm like super concerned about here would be, yeah, Blood Moon off the top would be a pain. One Ring, okay, that's fine. So they can crew the Hearse now, hit us for 5. I'm gonna just take the 5. Prismatic is pretty good. Yeah, play out the land, Prismatic this, and then we're gonna win the race. We're gonna kill them in 5 hits. They're gonna kill us in 6 hits. Yeah. Jam, hope to dodge this turn. Maybe deploy Samwise, maybe not. They're gonna jam for 2. Play out the Delta so that we can hardcast the Force. By doing that, we are gonna take a turn off of our clock though, which is something to be aware of. But it does give us protection against them drawing a Haymaker. And I didn't do the math, but I'm pretty sure we still win this race. Drew another land, okay. I think I'll just play the Samwise, because now this becomes a 2-turn clock, which means that they have to hold creatures back. There's nothing for us to target. I didn't want to fetch, because I don't want to go to an even life total. Let's make the Samwise the one that is the ring bearer. Can untap. Second Murktide. Jam. Jam. I think it's safer. So I could have played this Murktide, exiled a card, gotten our extra counter on the on the first Murktide, put them to 5, and then we are more likely to have removal. Like, we're more likely to kill them next turn. But I think I would rather just hold up Force, because we're not losing this game unless they are able to do something. Like, we need to be able to counter a second One Ring here, basically. Fable. Do I care about them having Fable? I think that I do not care about them having Fable. Yeah. Fable just means that we hold Sam back to block the Goblin token. They're going to jam for 1. I'll take a Brainstorm here. If we hit another cantrip, not... Oh, yeah, sorry, this is lethal. I don't know what I was doing. Yeah, so we'll put back land, fetch, and then Murktide lethals them. I almost missed that. Blue, 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 blue. Murktide's going to be big, and we will hit you for lethal with Force backup. All right, cool. Took game 1 off of Moonstompy. Like to see it. Post board. I like Blue Blast. I am going to board in the Swamp in lieu of one of these Underground Seas. Going to board in Prismatic Ending. And then also going to board in these Force of Negations. Can think about the Spell Pierce and the Thought Seizes. The thing is that these are all really bad against Chalice, and they don't really do much on the draw. Another cool interaction is you can Containment Priest, and then it prevents them from being able to... So Containment Priest prevents their ability to flip the Fable, which would otherwise be a pretty scary card, which is kind of cool. I find that Teferi is typically too slow in this matchup. I like having the full set of equipment. I think I can trim possibly 2 Bowmasters and 1 Daze. No, I'm going to trim a Ponder. So leave our threats as Samwise Stoneforge Bowmasters, Murktides plus equipments. And then we get an extra 2 answers to Blood Moon and Force of Negation. Yep. Yeah, this is where I want to be. Okay. I didn't map this sideboard out or anything while I was putting this together, so I'm sure that there's work to be done there. This hand is atrocious. I'm going to mulligan it. This is a much better hand. I will keep this. I think I'm deciding between Murktide, Delta, and maybe Wasteland. I think I'm going to put back the Murktide. I think that I want interaction earlier in the game. No, I'm going to put back the Wasteland. They kept a 7. I don't think Wasteland is necessarily where I want to be here. They're not a Cavern of Souls deck. Well, against a start like that, maybe Wasteland would have been good. But, you know, we're here. That I like. Going to lead on Delta. So we have the ability to fetch all basics here, which is nice. One of the reasons I kept the Murktide here was so that I'd have a blue card for Force of Negation that isn't my Brainstorm and isn't my Blue Blast. Not that I expect that Murktide is going to be the card that I actually care about this early in the game. It's kind of just, you know, insert generic blue card here so that I can force. Second land, pass. Swords. Play out a Strand. Pass back. I'm kind of just okay to play this Drago game here. So they've got a slow hand, sure. I'm going to let the Chrome Mox go. Put Dead Gone underneath it. They've got a Blood Moon. Okay. So I could force this pitching Murktide, or I could Blue Blast it, or I could Brainstorm. I think I'm going to just Brainstorm first, because if I Brainstorm first off of my basic island, then I can choose whether or not I want to let this Blood Moon resolve, and I can decide whether or not I want to kill this now or later, because I can fetch planes, and then I still have access to all of my tools with the exception of the Murktide itself. I'm going to put back Tundra Daze, and I will fetch my planes, and then I'll let the Blood Moon resolve. I love Moonstompy. One of the things that I think is really cool about playing with and against Moonstompy is that the it's really a game of choke points from both players' ends. So last game, we were able to identify that their choke point was mana early in the game, and then that turned on our days on, what was it, like turn 3 or something. And then this game, they're attempting to Blood Moon us and playing around days, but the mana's not actually, like colored mana is not actually our bottleneck here. Ooh, Samwise is kind of cool. I think I'll put swords on bottom, Samwise in the middle, days on top. And then this way we can pitch days to force if we want to, or if they give us an opportunity and a target, then we can daze something. Like if they try and one ring us here, they're just going to cast a Simian Spirit Guide. Sure. That's okay with me. I guess I'll kill this. I don't know, this feels awkward. And then I'm going to pass. So they're going to place something here. Second Spirit Guide, sure. I'm going to let that go. And then I'm going to Blue Blast the Blood Moon, fetch Swamp, and then put Samwise the land back into my hand. Get us a little bit closer to something else. Are they going to try and Red Blast this on the way back up? No? Okay. That's fine. We'll fetch, get our Swamp, and then Samwise it up and get back our Delta. Ooh, Stoneforge. I think we can just do it all here. So I can Stoneforge first. I think I'm going to get Jite here. Because I've got the 2 bodies, I've already got the Batterskull in my hand. I don't think that the Cauldra is going to be the thing that I necessarily want or need here. We'll get a Tundra, and then Murktide for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's going to be big, and that's just in there. Okay. If they Red Blast the Murktide, I'm going to let that go, because I care much more about them getting, like, this is going to be Red Blast on the Murktide, I think. Yep, and that's fine. I could daze it, but I would much rather hold up Force of Negation for the One Ring. We don't actually need the Murktide to win this game. If it trades 1-for-1 with the Red Blast, that is much preferable for me than for it to get, than for me to get got by them going like One Ring, pitch Spirit Guide on, and then blast the Force of Negation. 2, 3, 4, One Ring. All right. Is your last card also a Pyroblast? If the last card is, okay, good. It wasn't also a Pyroblast. That's very good. Prismatic. Could knock out the Chromox. Doesn't seem relevant. Could play out Jite. I think I'm just going to play out the Jite. I don't know. Feels awkward. I want to use my mana in sort of like the most efficient way possible. This feels, I don't know. This feels awkward. I don't know if I'm spewing here. We'll jam for 2, not get counters on the Jite, and then attack with Samwise. Okay, so we attacked with Samwise. They took 2 damage, and we're going to pass the turn, put in our Batterskull. Hopefully they don't have another One Ring. Not much we can do about that at this point. Paying costs. I wonder if they were thinking about activating the Den of the Bugbear. It definitely seems like they don't have like a true threat here. I feel like they'd just be jamming. Yeah, sure. You can have a Blood Moon. That's absolutely fine. Blood Moon, Ancient Tomb. Okay, cool. Literally does not matter at all. Cool. We'll activate second Samwise. I'll just equip my Batterskull with the Jite, and then attack with that. All right. Feel pretty good about this. They're on no cards. We're basically, I think we've got pretty much everything covered except for them drawing exactly a One Ring. But the cool thing is that because of the Blood Moon, we actually can now Prismatic Ending for 4. Show off our fun Samwise loop that I was talking about. We'll get back our Samwise, and then we will choose something to be a Ring Bearer again. I think I'll choose the Stoneforge Mystic now, because it is the lowest power. Wasteland doesn't do anything. Can jam with everything here. The Wasteland doesn't do anything, so I can just discard it. Yeah, okay. So they're going to kill our Germ Token. We still get in for 3. I think I'm going to re-equip to the Stoneforge and pass the turn. We'll loop Samwise one more time. I'll keep the untapped one, I guess. Bring back our other Samwise. Oh man, the value is so sweet. Okay. I'm gonna Samwise again. We'll keep the Samwise that we already had in play. Return our Samwise. Yep. And then we'll make Stoneforge big. Jam with all the stuff. Draw, discard. I'm gonna discard the days now so that we can play this Wasteland, pick up our Batterskull. And now this feels very much like a can we just beat the clock? Which very much I think we can. I kind of expect them to pack it in here. Okay. Broadside is fine. I'm going to kill it pre-combat so that they can't kill our stuff. Yeah, actually, I guess I am not actually going to pick my Batterskull up because I'm going to just equip it to the Samwise and kill them. I suppose they could have another Dead Gone here, but that's fine. All right, awesome. 1-0 versus Moon Stompy. Back for round 2. We have our choice of player draw. I would like to play first. Let's look at our hand. This hand is unkeepable. So we gon' mulligan this. That is also extremely unkeepable. I guess we're gonna mulligan this one too. Oh boy. Oh my god. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to 4 here. There have just been no mana sources, like no colored mana sources in any of these hands. Like what do I do? What do I do? All right. Let's keep. I think the plan is to keep Stoneforge, Underground, Days, something else. Probably Prismatic Ending over Swords because it's a little bit more versatile. So we'll put back Days. Nah, we'll keep the Swords. Yeah, sure. Underground Sea, go. I think the plan is basically rip Tundra, get Stoneforge for Kaldra, hope that wins the game. Scrubland? Thoughtseize. Scrubland Thoughtseize, this is almost certainly going to be the black-white scam deck, I think. What else would lead? I guess it could be D&T. We don't see a Yorion companion. Sure, I guess I will concede this game and hide information. That was rough. Sometimes variance gets ya. Okay. Against a deck that goes Scrubland... Yeah, against a deck that goes Scrubland into Thoughtseize, that seems like a relatively fair deck to me. I'm going to assume that it's a grief deck of some kind. The opportunity cost of a Containment Priest and a Spellbomb are not super high. Prismatic Ending is actually not necessarily that good because they often are going to end up with like grief and stuff. But on the other hand, Douthie, Bowmasters. Okay. So some combination of like these 6 cards, I think. I don't think I want the Thoughtseizes. I don't think this is going to be a matchup where I want Force of Will. Teferi is maybe not where I want to be. Although maybe Pest Control is worse than Teferi. Yeah, I would buy that Pest Control is probably worse than Teferi. I'm making the assumption that this is some kind of a black-white scam deck. Is Spell Pierce better than any of the things that I am boarding out here? Does Lavinia stop? It does stop Evoke cards. Maybe I want Lavinia instead of the Spell Pierce. Bringing in the Swamp here, the opponent's probably a Wasteland deck. I think I want access to the additional mana source in a potential Wasteland Mirror. We'll keep the Dazes, all of this stuff. Yeah, okay. I could be super wrong. Maybe I end up getting wrecked. Oh, hey, we're on the play. This is much more my speed. Okay. I think I'm just going to lead Island Ponder here. Try and find like a removal spell of some kind. The Dress Down is not necessarily something I'm like super caring about finding. Basically, the Dress Down is like just fine, I think. Island Ponder. We've got more card selection and a Daze. I think I'll put Brainstorm on bottom, Ponder in the middle, and I think I will draw the Daze. And this can insulate us against some level of grief shenanigans. Or I guess if they're just gonna do that, Been to Wasteland. Okay. I think I'm just gonna Brainstorm now. I want to keep my days, and I would like to set up Samwise Wasteland. I think I'll put back the dress down, dress down on bottom, ponder on top of that, and then pass. Maybe I should have put the Samwise on top. I don't know. Maybe that would have been better. Okay, so we're getting ephemerated here. Took our Sam. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to fetch and get a plains. Yeah. Suppose I shouldn't have fetched there. Oh. Okay. Second grief. This, like, I don't think I like that extra grief there. Feel like I would have held it. I'm going to ponder, try and find swords to plowshares. It's pretty good. We know that they missed on lands. Swords is what I want. Having to draw through 2 dazes sucks, but it removes all pressure, and they're likely going to be weak to daze. No, I think I can do better than that. Cauldron maybe is not better than that. Okay, 6 turns to find an answer to this grief and dodge them doing stuff. Yeah, you're going to take my Cauldron, maybe my Bowmasters. Took the Bowmasters, okay. Looks like they don't have another land. Murktide. Play out the Wasteland. I think the argument for playing the land there instead of holding it is, like, obviously I could find a Brainstorm, shuffle it away, potentially. But also, like, what's the worst case scenario here is we hit lands for another 4 turns in a row, and then we can just cast the Cauldron. Dress down. I guess I can cycle this dress down now. The downsides of drawing piles of keeping of having equipment in your deck. This has been a rough variance league. All right, getting hit for 3 down to 12. Okay, not necessarily the 2-drop that I wanted. Would have loved to have found a Stoneforge there, but you know, worse things have happened. Underground Sea. Okay. If our next card is also a land, then I feel like we're in okay shape. Or if our next card is, we're looking for like removal spell, land, or cantrip, or even potentially threat. Like, I guess we've got a lot of good draws here. Stoneforge, okay. Stoneforge, get Jeet, play it, attack for 2. Okay. This feels a lot more manageable now because we can suit up one of our creatures and use that as removal. And so we're not just dead to this grief, which is good. And they can't snuff us out. I guess I'll leave the Wasteland up. No, I'm going to tap the Wasteland. Is there any way that they can deal us 3 damage at instant speed? Like, would I rather gain life here, or would I rather kill this grief? I think I would rather kill this grief, but I might be, like, forgetting about some like thing that they can do. I don't know. All right, conceded the game. That was a weird game. This has been a weird match so far. This has been a super weird match so far. Okay. Do I want to revisit any of the things that we've done? I called my shot pretty much correctly where I expected them to be a black-white scam deck. Days I like still, I think. The ephemerates are a little bit hard to interact with the cards that I've boarded in here. Maybe I really don't want Force of Wills against this Grief Ephemerate deck. They probably boarded out their Solitudes in that game, I guess. I mean, or they drew the other half. But if we just showed them Underground Sea pass and we mulled the 4, then maybe they would have thought that we were a combo deck. What did they exile? Let's see. So they exiled with Grief. I feel like they exiled a Bronco. They exiled something else. They exiled a Thoughtseize. And they exiled a Douthie. None of those were 1-drops. So I don't think I want Pest Control. They haven't shown us any 1-drops yet. I don't think I want a piece of 2-for-1 interaction or something conditional like Spell Pierce. I think I just want to try and out mid-range them. So we'll go again. All right. Game 3 on the draw. This seems perfectly fine. So we'll see how many griefs we get griefed on turn 1. And if that number is like, I don't know, 0 to 1, feels fine. Okay. Backstreet seems fine. Been to Solitude. So it's good to know that they do have Solitudes. Just going to fetch an island here. Yeah, fetch island, cast Ponder. We don't have a Strand, so we're going to be exposed to Wasteland at some point. I suppose that I will put the Brainstorm on the bottom, the Stoneforge in the middle, and then the Prismatic Ending on the top. This leaves us with the option to daze. We can draw the Stoneforge, fetch, and then Prismatic Ending a Douthie or some equivalent. We're getting griefed. That's fine. They're probably going to take daze. We're pretty flush on lands, so the way that I've sequenced this is I didn't want to go below 2 lands, but we're able to beat the single wasteland that they've presented. We're not able to necessarily work through 2 wastelands without finding a white source. So we'll see what they take here and if that can give us any information about the texture of their hand. My guess is that they'll take, okay, Ponder, interesting. And that's a reanimate. And I don't think there's any reason to daze this. You can take my Murktide, probably. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to grab a Tundra here and play the Stoneforge. And I think I'm going to get Batterskull. So I tend to prefer Batterskull in creature matchups. It's potentially castable. We've got a bunch of mana sources in our deck. If they kill the Stoneforge, or if they have a second Wasteland. Well, I guess second Wasteland's not good, but this is sort of the difference between Kaldra and Jite. And they know we have another Delta, so... Oh, okay. We're just getting griefed again, sure. Yeah, can't do anything about that. It'd be pretty sick to draw the Kaldra off the top. Okay, we're getting Ephemerated. Yeah, this deck is scam central, eh? So they've got 6 power, 1 card in hand. They're going to get another grief on their turn. So I don't think I care about this Prismatic Ending basically at all. I can probably fetch... They didn't play a land last turn, so I don't think they have another Wasteland or another land. They're going to Ephemerate blink one of these two, and then they'll take the equipment that we put in our hand. So I think I'm just going to play this Stoneforge Mystic, decline the search so that they can't take it, decline the search, and then this gives us the ability to double block, take a little bit of pressure off. They'll take our Prismatic Ending, and then we're in good shape if we find cantrips. Yep, you're going to take my Prismatic Ending. Oh, they had another Wasteland. I wonder if they were sandbagging that, or if they just take our double block here, trade my 1-2 for your 3-2. Oh, Bowmasters. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. That was a pretty good draw. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 7-7. It's too bad that this is not an 8-8. Would have much preferred to be able to just clock them in 2 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this really does change the math. Like, they swing for 3, they put us to 11. We swing back, they go to 9. They swing for 5. We go to 6. We swing, put them to 2. And then I think that's lethal, or do we just slightly win this race? Hang on. So it's going to take us 3 turns to kill them. 1, 2, 3. And then we take 5, 10. Oh, I actually win this race, like, just barely. Okay. I mean, we're not winning this game by holding back. So if we both break off from here, I think we barely win this race. If, obviously, there are lots of cards that put us dead. They can have a removal spell. They can have another Bowmasters. There are things that they can draw that will put us dead. That's not one of them. They're going to get another Surveil land so they can get a little bit of some search action going. Bowmasters was a sick draw there. So we'll jam for 7 again. And they binned another Troll. Okay, so they cycled Troll and then they binned a Troll. Okay. So they're taking a blank draw here. Like, not necessarily a blank, but like an unknown draw. I'm going to Bowmaster their Bowmasters and then double block Grief is the plan. That is the plan that I think... Oh man, what a nail-biter of a match. That game 1 was rough. Game 2 was super weird. We drew all the equipment, and then we drew a Stoneforge after we drew all the equipment. but that was enough. And then game three was pretty interesting. Our double block the grief line into them bowmaster to kill the second Stoneforge was also pretty cool. I feel pretty good about that game. Like this match, apart from game one, maybe I should have conceded like a little bit sooner. Maybe I should have just not played my land, give them no information. I don't know. All right, anyways, 2-0, on to round 3. Future Matt here. I'm not super happy about how I played this match, so I'm going to watch it back and then provide some interjections and commentary over my own sort of like gameplay commentary as we go, so I can try and isolate and figure out where I went wrong in this match or what mistakes I made. All right, back for round 3. We are on the draw. We have a choice about whether or not we want to keep this hand. It has 3 lands, no pressure, removal, and a Batterskull and some cantrips. I think this is probably good enough. This is like not my favorite hand by any means, but I'll take it. Vista, crack. So this is like gonna be a Jeskai or an Esper control deck, or whoa. I was not expecting Prismatic Vista into Thoughtseize. That was not what I would have expected from Prismatic Vista. I wonder if this is like Saga Storm, or oh, they have a companion. Yorion. Oh, this has got to be Death and Taxis. Okay. I gotta get better at like checking whether my opponent has whether they have a companion or not. Vista, Fetch, Swamp. This very much feels like D&T now that I've like settled myself. I think I'm gonna take this opportunity and ponder. Oh, sorry, and brainstorm. Just put this Batterskull back on my deck. Hopefully we can find. Nope. That was, yeah. We'll put the Batterskull back on second from the top and put the swords on top of that. They prioritize taking our swords there. So if they have a follow-up discard spell, I don't want them to get that one. We've got the, okay, that's okay. I think I'm going to ponder and then probably wasteland them. Yeah, I think I like this. I'm going to put Batterskull on the bottom, Stoneforge in the middle, Bowmasters on top. I'll draw the Bowmasters, and then I will wasteland them. They've got another Vista, probably going to get Plains with this one. I think I'm going to play out the Wasteland here, with the intention of passing and then Bowmastering. We also still have the Batterskull on top of the deck, and so if we draw... We can draw Batterskull. We can then... So we draw Batterskull. We can then Stoneforge Mystic and get the Jite. And then Jite plus, like, Bowmasters and Batterskull is, like, a pretty reasonable plan here, I think. The only thing I'm not sure about so far is whether or not the Wasteland was correct. They've got a Recruiter of the Guard, so they're going to start getting some value. Maybe we're going to find, like, a Flickerwisp or something. I guess they could also just be recruitering for recruiters. They got their own Bowmasters, which is fine. We've got 2 Bowmasters, so I will jam the first one and kill their recruiter, and then attack for 2. I don't really care about their Bowmasters here. We've got another Bowmasters, and like, it kind of just doesn't interact in any meaningful way with whatever we've got going on. So they've kind of gonna... So they're gonna... kill that, yep. And then they've got their own Bowmasters up. Drew another swords. That's not bad. I'm trying to think through all of the sort of like the permutations of attacking here. I'm not like quite practiced enough with Bowmaster combat math to fully understand the best way of sequencing this. So we attack, they Bowmaster, ping our Bowmaster, and then block our token with their token, but that doesn't give us an opportunity to deploy the Jite this turn. So I think I'm just going to deploy the Jite and not attack, with the intention of just having something to equip it to next turn. And then we have the swords. We have double swords to Plowshares so that we can interact if we want or need to. There's their Bowmasters. I'll probably ping our Bowmasters. Yep. I spent way too long on this turn. If you look at it, the single turn cost me a full minute of time, when the play that I was trying to get to was just play Jite and pass. I could have done that much faster than the way that I waffled around for a while. I guess maybe the sequence was, I don't know if this isn't like in any way right, but if we attack with our bowmasters and our token, they flash it in and ping. They can flash in their bowmasters and ping our bowmasters, and then we can bowmasters our bowmasters so that we have a 2/2 and they have a 1/1. Maybe that works. That feels kind of silly, but right. So the Thalia prevented us from swordsing there, so I'm going to lead on bowmasters kill Thalia is the plan. And then, yeah, I can attack for 2 here, I think. They're just taking the 2. Land would have been sick there. Like, land, equip, attack. But it looks like they're flooding out. I'll just take the 1 here. Not. With the Jitte on board, our, like, every extra body is worth so much right now. So I'm going to equip to the token and then attack. And they've got a Solitude. And I think that I'm just going to force this Solitude. And I'm going to pitch this Daze, which doesn't really do much. The other thing I was thinking is, like, have the ability to Daze, pick up the C, replay it, and then still have the ability to re-equip to the Bowmasters. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, so by pitching Daze, I opened myself up to the Swords to Plowshares that was their last card in hand. The Daze is unlikely to counter pretty much anything. They can even play Yorion through Daze at this point, and then the Brainstorm is going to be live the moment that I kill this Bowmasters, which is, you know, at a moment of my choice. I think I'll kill your Bowmasters and attack for 1. They've got a really nice selection of lands here. It's quite nice looking. Okay, so they put Yorion in hand. Gonna lead on Brainstorm, I think. Pest Control and Wasteland. But we're gonna have to redraw all of this anyways. We can find a shuffle effect. So, guess I'll put Batterskull furthest from the top. Because I want to be able to Wasteland this Caracas and then Swords the Yorion. But I suppose, yeah, I think that's going to be sort of the sequence here. So we'll put back Batterskull, Tundra on top, play out Wasteland. Do I want to put 2 counters on this? Do I want to put 2 counters on this in exchange for our creatures? No, I think I'm just going to kill this Caracas. And then I will equip, but then not make an attack. And pass. So they drew Vista. They've got Yorion. Okay. Oh, they're just attacking. Oh, I don't think I would have attacked there. Like, why would I have killed the Caracas there, right? Like, the reason I would have killed the Caracas is if I had a removal spell for Yorion. And so, by attacking, you're just giving me this token in exchange for a Jitte counter, but you're allowing me to get counters on the Jitte in the first place. So that seems pretty bad. Yeah, because now this works out pretty well. I was thinking about if I had to cast this Pest Control to eat this Orc token so that I can get counters on the Jitte in the first place. But now I can just... Alright. Game feels much better now. We've got Batterskull on top of our deck. We will just slam that next turn. Depending on what they play this turn, if anything, might cycle the Pest Control. I think I will, in fact, cycle this Pest Control. There's our Batterskull. And Samwise. Alright. Samwise kind of cool. I'm definitely going to just deploy this Batterskull, though. Just try and get this game done. I think I am going to pump here. I think it's a spew to use counters to deal damage here. There isn't really any need to. The counters can still deal the same amount of damage on a subsequent turn, but each additional counter can help to control the board and prevent myself from losing control of the game. Just take my opportunities to deal damage. We got Batterskull, and we can pass. Yeah, our opponent really flooded out. That line with the attacking for the 1 with the Germ token, I think they might have seen it as free, but it really wasn't free. Sure, you have a Bowmasters. Ping my Bowmasters. I will make my Bowmasters bigger. That's fine. Prismatic. I can just hold this Prismatic. We'll just let combat damage happen. Sure, that's fine. I will Samwise my Bowmasters back. And I think I'll just pass. Play the Bowmasters on their turn. I'm going to 100% have to win game 2, though. because I have spent far too long here. This is what we call accidental foreshadowing. Apart from like the couple small things I've already mentioned, I'm relatively happy with how I played this game 1. The biggest problem, and this leads to problems further down the line in the subsequent games, is the amount of time that I spent here and then the amount of time pressure that I feel under in the subsequent games. Okay, what do I want here? Containment Priest is surprisingly good against D&T. I would definitely want Basic Swamp. Thoughtseize I'm not necessarily opposed to. Dress Down I'm not opposed to. Prismatic Ending I'm not opposed to. Things I am opposed to, gonna be Force of Wills. Definitely don't want Force of Wills. And then it could just be some Dazes too. Would I rather have like Daze or Lavinia? It's kind of an interesting question. And then I guess like Spell Pierce might not be the worst. Nah, I think I'll trim like 2 Dazes. Just go Counter Magic out, Interaction in, and the additional land, and I think this is fine. Yeah. So Containment Priest has text against Aether Vial and also against Flicker Wisp. It's really awkward against Flicker Wisp. Like, it's an effect that is symmetrical, and so I need to be aware of how it'll interact with me, and they need to be aware of how it'll interact with them. But because it has Flash, I kind of have a little bit more optionality there. I'll keep this hand. It's got basic plains, basic island, underground sea, plow, brainstorm, vial. Sure. I'm just going to lead on my flooded strand, I think. Pass the turn. They're going to tick up. I think I'd like to see a Mother of Runes here. If I can Bowmaster a Mother of Runes, that'd be pretty sweet. Second Bowmaster, not bad. Pass again. See if they put that Mother of Runes in. Yep. I think I'm going to get a Tundra here. If I can... The Bowmasters are actually more important than having white mana in this particular moment. And so if they are going to Wasteland me, I would rather that they Wasteland the Tundra and not the Underground Sea. But there's basically like gives them a 50-50 choice. Gives them the opportunity to make a mistake based on the texture of our hand. Against the 80 card, I don't know, the 80 or however many card D&T piles with Yorion, their mana denial strategy is not quite as effective because they are less likely to draw. There are 4 copies of Wasteland, 4 copies of Port. Okay. Got a Recruiter for Bowmasters. Okay. So I could Brainstorm, they Bowmasters, and then I Bowmaster their Bowmasters and resolve my Brainstorm. But I already played a land this turn, so maybe I'll do that with Ponder instead. I think I'll do that with Ponder, because I would rather be able to actually shuffle this Brainstorm instead of like Brainstorm. I suppose the other way I could have done this would have been like Ponder and then Brainstorm in response to the Vial activation and then Bowmasters. Oh, I almost clicked the wrong thing to Bowmasters there. Brainstorm, Stoneforge, Brainstorm. Okay, I like Stoneforge a lot. Gonna put that in the middle so I don't get Thoughtseized. I went too deep trying to play around Bowmasters here and ended up just making a worse play while playing through the Bowmasters anyways. Basically, had I Brainstormed instead, I was still gonna kill the Bowmasters and not let them get a Bowmasters trigger. Keeping the Ponder so that I can shuffle is a better use of the resources that I have available. And pass. Yeah, I think I'd rather keep my token here. They're down to 3 cards. Well, that's not good. They found their Wasteland. Thankfully, we're flush with Brainstorms. I think I have to just... Actually... Okay, so Vial can only put in a 3-drop, which means that I can Wasteland them and then pass priority. If they Bowmaster me, then I can Brainstorm. So we'll move to combat. Okay, they didn't have it. Now we can safely Brainstorm. Underground Sea... I mean, yeah, that'll do. I guess I'll just, put these back here for now. Cast another Brainstorm. Just try and get a big Murktide Regent. That's a reasonable place to be, I think. Opponent vialed in an opposition agent, which, sure, you got it. I think I'll put the Stoneforge on the bottom and then the Batterskull on top of that. And then I can shuffle away the Stoneforge with the Ponder, because the Stoneforge will let them search my deck for something big. Vial all the way up to 4, eh? I guess they're going Vial up to 5 for Yorion. They've got their own Stoneforge here. Okay, so this is where this gets bad. This is where this gets bad. So they've got Cauldron now. I suppose there's some possibility that... Oh, does Murktide into Murktide do anything for me? Oh, it kind of feels like it does. So they're going to Cauldron attack. I think this is the play. Yeah, this is really awkward. Yeah, this Ponder was just a shuffle. Like, I didn't do the math. I didn't actually double check that I could, in fact, play the second Murktide Regent to get a giant board presence. So I essentially just locked myself into drawing 3 uncastables with a handful of uncastables, except for the Brainstorm already. I'll make a 4/4 Murktide with the intention of making a bigger Murktide next turn. Oh, no, I've really botched this because I don't actually have enough cards to Murktide again. There's too much combat math in D&T for me to realistically wrap my brain around. Lead on another Brainstorm. Daze doesn't do anything. I will concede this game and try and win game 3 with 8 minutes on my clock. It's possible. I definitely think I made mistakes in that game. There's no way that I didn't. Yeah, again, I think this deck is this sideboard configuration is fine. I'll submit again. Try and not get overwhelmed by combat math in game 3. Ponder no follow-up. If we get wastelanded, we die. But if we don't get wastelanded, we find another land. This hand is fantastic. I'm going to keep this. Yeah, like this just does all the interaction, like all the combination of sort of threats. I guess the Containment Priest is like the lowest tier here. Didn't find a land, so we're going to shuffle. Hopefully we don't get wrecked. Swamp Thoughtseize, you got it. Probably take Prismatic Ending or Bowmasters here. If I rip the land, like, yeah, Prismatic Ending. Them taking a Stoneforge doesn't do anything. Okay. Well, let's try and dodge Wasteland. If they've got their own Stoneforge here, this can go south pretty quickly. That feels like a Bowmasters to me. We'll pass back again. They're going to Bowmasters us. Sure. I'd prefer not to use this Swords on their Bowmasters. I'm going to see what they play on their turn. Yeah, much rather spend my Swords on the Stoneforge than on the Bowmasters. I just got Cauldron. Cauldron, Vial, sure. Gonna kill this Stoneforge Mystic. You can have a Vial. Vial's like a couple turns late here. Still relevant, but Flooded Strand. Could just get Tundra. Leave myself resilient to Wasteland. No, they would have had a Wasteland already. I can get C here. 4 cards left. They've got to have removal. I think playing Stoneforge instead of Pest Control here was a mistake. I think basically we're trying to catch up because of missing that land drop without having been able to find it off of the Ponder. I don't want the opponent to be able to gain too much of a mana advantage and put us too far into the dirt. Pest Control both helps to reduce a little bit of the pressure on board, getting rid of the Orc token, and prevents the Vial from gaining them a huge mana advantage. I think I'll get Cauldron here. Cauldron's kind of the least, the equipment that I actually care about the least here. Like, if it gets into play, it's still going to be bonkers, but it's the hardest one to get into play because it costs mana, and they... Oh, this is a Telegraph Bowmasters. I'm not going to block that. They may just not have it, but it's not worth the opportunity cost. Yorion in hand. Okay. Wish I had a 1-mana spell here. Yeah, right. Let's just put this Cauldron into play. They're going to have swords here, or not. They're just taking it, sure. Okay, so they got a Flicker Wisp for that, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll take the, 2.5 for 1 off of this Pest Control, I think. It would be nice to draw land here. Jita is not bad. I think I got pretty lucky in just drawing the Jite, which I should have probably fetched with the Stoneforge anyways. The hand that I have is full of small creatures that can hold and carry a Jite, and so the Cauldron is not necessarily adding something to the board in a way that Jite with small creatures wouldn't be at this point. I will just cast this though. Kill Mother of Runes, Vial, Orc Army. Opponent has 2 cards plus Yorion in hand. Just pass here. If they attack with the Bowmasters, I think I will block it this turn. Nope. Take 3, sure. And that's a Yorion. Okay. And then you can Flicker Wisp something. What are we going to Flicker Wisp here? Oh, flicker my Tundra. Okay. Okay, that's kind of cool. Get another Tundra here. And I think I'm just going to play a giant flyer. Gonna leave the Tundra up 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because the Flicker Wisp will. I'll get the land back, and then I can put the Jite into play off of my Stoneforge Mystic. Suppose I could have also left Underground Sea up, leave up Bowmasters. So I identified this in the moment, but this is just a mistake. Should have left the Underground Sea up because I was getting the Tundra back. Basically just cut myself off from options for no reason. Solitude on the Murktide. That's gonna happen. Is this a little bit of a life buffer? Sure. Activate. Put in the Jite. Land. Stoneforge. Stoneforge, get Batterskull. And then I think unfortunately the line is going to be to... As it depends on like how they attack. But most likely going to have to Bowmasters ping the Flicker Wisp, I think. I'm not really sure what was going through my mind here. Basically, I wanted to preserve my life total and not go to 1 or 0 because I was being attacked for a large amount, but it would have been much better for me to instead just take the 7 damage, go to 1, put the Batterskull into play, and then I can untap and attack with Jite on a Batterskull, so the life total doesn't necessarily matter if I'm going to regain a bunch of it. Opponents getting their own Jite, and then they have... I think I'd forgotten that one of their last cards was one of their last cards was in fact the Cauldra. So we'll equip, I guess. Attack with this. I think I have to pass here. Because I think my only line is like play Containment Priest, lifelink my Batterskull, gain 4 life. Something like that. Oh, okay. I guess I'll just gain 2 life then. We'll take the hit. Kill Mother of Runes. Sure. Put Batterskull into play. Flash in Containment Priest. And then pass into my own turn. Kind of hoping to just draw land here. Land, equip. I mean, okay. That'll also do, probably. Okay. Opponent has lots of stuff here. Yeah, I don't think I have outs here now. I need to hit that 7th land, I think. There was like a shot if I had hit that 7th land to equip the Cauldra. But yeah, like, they got me. Creature combat against D&T is not my forte. This is definitely something to practice. So creature combat against D&T is, in fact, not my forte. D&T, goblins, elves have all been matchups that I struggle with historically. There hasn't been a lot of that for the last, year or so, with elves having gone away, D&T being unpopular, and goblins transitioning into turbo goblins. During this final turn here, the board state was pretty overwhelming, but I think it was pretty manageable if I had a little bit more of a life buffer. So had I gotten that Batterskull into play a turn earlier, I started attacking with it, getting Jite counters on it, I think that this game was still winnable, and possibly even still winnable within the time frame that I had left. But the real moral of the story is I probably should have just gone to bed and not played this match. I was so excited about playing the deck after having played that Orzhov scam match that I just wanted to jam more, but I was really sleepy. All right, it is the next day for me. After that loss to D&T, decided that it was in fact time for me to go to sleep. We are on the play, or we have the choice, so gonna play first. Let's see about this hand. Hand's a little bit on the anemic side. We've got a lot of lands. I would be much more inclined to keep this if one of these lands was a wasteland. That would be, I think, much more my speed. I think I'm going to mulligan this, and I like this, I think, quite a bit more. I'll put back the Batterskull, and then we'll probably lead Island Ponder. I will take, another land here. Yeah, I think I'm going to sequence this so that we draw the Delta, hide the swords and the Wasteland. Probably put the swords on the bottom, Wasteland in the middle, Delta on top, and then we'll pass. The order there doesn't necessarily matter as much, because unless we decide to deploy this Orcish Bowmasters, if we deploy the Orcish Bowmasters, then we'll draw through the whole pile anyways. Otherwise, reasonable chance that if we want to spend a removal spell on something, we brainstorm into, then we can brainstorm and then fetch away stuff. Swords is on top of our deck. Our opponent's just played a Delta and passed. I think I'll play my own Delta and pass back. This leaves us up with the largest quantity of options here. Opponent going Delta, Delta, pass. I think I'm going to fetch this Swords Away. I'm not getting very, like, creature-y. I'm not getting, like, a creature vibe from my opponent here. I'm going to fetch the second sea here so that we're insulated from a wasteland while still having all of our colors. Play out plains, pass the turn. Second Bowmaster's not bad. There was an opportunity for us to cast a Bowmaster's, but if I do that, then, and they're a Bowmaster's deck, then they can Bowmaster our Bowmasters. They've got their own wasteland here. So now we could, there's a sequence here where, like, Brainstorm, they Bowmasters, we Bowmaster their Bowmasters, and then ideally we get our Brainstorm and our Bowmasters. We don't have Force Up, which I don't love. Let's give this a shot. Oh, they just had nothing, eh? Okay. Sequencing here again probably doesn't super matter because of the we didn't get a shuffle effect. Put back the ending and then redraw Wasteland, I think. We'll just untap, draw our Wasteland. I think I'm going to play the Wasteland and then I think I will pass. So if our opponent decides to pull the trigger on this Wasteland, then we can Samwise get it back. Second Wasteland, okay. Let's float blue here. And then, let's cast a Bowmasters, I think. The Underground Sea will die. Can see if they decide to Wasteland us again. I'm going to play the Samwise here. So we're going to Samwise, get back our Underground Sea. And this basically guarantees that we'll get something back here. We have the ability to, so if they decide to Bowmasters here as an example, then we can daze that, picking up our Underground Sea that they're targeting with the Wasteland, and then they still have, and then this potentially just gets us all of our value back. Obviously they can have a daze here, they can have Force, but I'm perfectly okay with trading a Force here. Yeah, that's fine. You can force pitching Brainstorm, you'll kill our Bowmasters, and then we'll pick up our Underground Sea. And then this just gives us, so they spent they will have spent, they're dazing us. So they daze and forced us. Okay. That's fine. We still have our own, we still got our Underground Sea back by dazing. So this ended up being still, I think, a perfectly fine exchange for us. Just gonna main phase this Bowmasters to get in a little bit of damage, kill their Bowmasters. And now we have a choice between kill their Hedge Maze or wait and then kill their Underground Sea, because their hand is Underground Sea, 3 unknowns. I think taking them off of the sea is going to be more valuable, so we'll hold here. Witherbloom Command, get back a Wasteland. Yeah, okay. Did they not return a... They must have taken a fetch land back. It's weird. It doesn't say what they put back in hand. It says Puka Be Like returns Puka Be Like to their owner's hand with Witherbloom Command. That is not a particularly useful description of what happened here. I'll just untap. Our opponent's going to deal us a damage. Samwise is great here. Okay. Wasteland C, Samwise, get back our Wasteland Hedge Maze. That's pretty gross. That feels great. So our opponent, I think, has a Delta in hand, but I'm not sure for certain. I guess I'll make the Samwise harder to block, and then we'll Wasteland you again. Because I'm pretty sure that our opponent didn't pick up a Wasteland. Alright. Okay. I'm pretty sure that was the Delta that they picked up, but it's basically impossible to tell. Strand. If I'm prismatic ending this Orc token, then we have a 3-turn clock. I think that is worthwhile. Jam for 4, play a land, pass the turn. Suppose I could have held the Strand there, but having 3 mana, so like, if we draw Brainstorm, I think I'd rather have the fetch in play, being able to fetch, like, Brainstorm, find Wasteland, play Wasteland, and still fetch all in the same turn cycle seems preferable to me. They've got their own Brainstorm here. I hope the audio on this one is okay. My partner put laundry in, so I adjusted some microphone settings, and I'll do some adjustment in post, but hopefully the audio is not I don't know. Maybe you can hear my washing machine going. Yeah, Fatal Push on the Samwise, that's fine. Force of Will is not, it's not a cantrip, which was what I would have wanted, or a threat, but it does sort of turn on the Force of Will in our hand already, so there are worse draws. If this is a Murktide, I am going to 100% Force of Will this. This definitely looks like a Murktide Regent. Yep, let's Force of Will that. Opponent with 2 cards left. Brainstorm. They're pausing in our beginning combat? No, they just had to stop there. Put them to 3. I am going to Brainstorm here. Wasteland, Ponder, Force. Could put Force on top and then Ponder, so we redraw Ponder next turn, spend this turn to Wasteland them, and just try and cut off as many options as possible. This doesn't stop them from having another Murktide Regent, but then we have a redraws with Ponder next turn. Yeah, okay. I think that's fine. And kill your black source. And pass the turn. They are going to 2. They've got another Underground. So they're on removal spell, Murktide or Bust. Okay. Ultimate price. Main deck ultimate price. That's kind of fun. Okay. Gonna fetch first. Get a Tundra. And then tap my Tundra to play Ponder. Stoneforge, Tundra. So I want both of these, but if I play a Stoneforge and then they remove it, then I shuffle away my second Stoneforge. I guess one of the cards they could have here would be Daze. So if they Daze it, then I still have the second Stoneforge on top. I think this is worth playing. Yep. Okay. Sort of like I drew it up. So then we have another Stoneforge on top. That's a pretty late Beanstalk. Play out Stoneforge. Yes, I will use this. So I'm tempted by Batterskull here, but we only have 3 lands. We've traded off a lot of land resources. If the Stoneforge survives, it's going to probably win us the game anyways. I think I'm just going to get Kaldra. I think it dodges the largest amount of their removal, because they're likely to only have basically Brazen Borrower that will answer the Kaldra if we get it into play. Second Beanstalk. What are they hoping for here? Land cut? Swamp cut. Okay. Drew the Batterskull anyways. Okay. So they don't have the ability to Force of Will at any point this game. This is going to come down to, can we find something prior to them killing us with a Murktide Regent? They still have 3 Murktides left in the deck, I think. I suppose we could very gradually die to Bowmaster Beats as well. Was that Beanstalk number 3? No, Lorien Revealed. Sure. Getting a basic island, maybe? Maybe another Trop? I think they're out of Undergrounds. Yep, Trop. Gonna just play my Wasteland and pass. We can't waste them off of black, because they have that basic swamp. They haven't shown us Uro, so we don't have double... No double... They can't cast Uro, basically. They don't have the double blue and the double green. Stoneforge? Stoneforge stifle the activation, sure. That's kind of interesting. I feel like that's not the spot to use the stifle. Because if you have the stifle, then I can just... Like, you could stifle the activation on the Kaldra, like the living weapon trigger, and that seems much better. I'll get another Tundra, jam this Batterskull. They can't have Force of Will. They can have another Daze here. Bowmasters is okay. I mean, yeah. Beanstalk number 3, sure. I will Daze this. I'm gonna pick up the Underground Sea. Yep. Okay. I think that this is unfortunately a spot where I have to Brainstorm. Swords, Bowmaster, not bad. Okay. So put back Kaldra, Force of Will on top. Or actually, it doesn't even matter, because we just play Underground Sea and then we Bowmaster them for lethal. They can't Force of Will us. Okay. Brainstorming into the Bowmasters with the Bowmasters on board gets us there. All right. Okay. So, want Prismatic Ending's not bad. Swamp I like. Bellbomb could be fine. Probably not. Spell Pierce I like. Dress Down doesn't do a ton. I kind of like Thoughtseizes. And then Lavinia is not bad. And then I just don't want these Force of Wills in my deck. So I got four of those out. Pest Control is also not going to be very good. Yeah, I'll board like this. Board in the extra piece of removal. for Beanstalk, whatever, Spell Pierce, Thoughtseize, Lavinia. Okay, perfect. Okay. We are on the draw. We've got a Wasteland, we've got a Brainstorm, we've got Bowmasters, Swords. I think I'll keep this. There's like, oh, that's rough. I think I'm just going to Wasteland their Wasteland. Yeah. Or I could just play the Wasteland and then pass. Yeah, I'm just going to play at this Wasteland and pass. Pretty reasonable possibility. So they're likely, yeah, Cycling Lorien revealed, and then they're going to get, oh, Hedge Maze, okay. So they're just going to trade their Wasteland for our Wasteland, that's fine. And then they're going to Hedge Maze. So we kind of just both took a turn off. Just going to Brainstorm here, I think. I don't want to get Bowmastered. Daze is good. I don't think I'm close enough to Teferi for this, and I don't think I want the second Swords. Yeah. Should have ordered that the other direction, so I redrew the Teferi, I think. Yeah. Oh, they didn't have another land, which is good. I think I'll just pass. Don't need to cantrip to hit the land, or don't need to cantrip on my turn. They've got an Underground Sea. I suppose that I probably should have played the Bowmasters in response to the cycle so that I could daze in response, whereas now I can't daze their daze. And I am going to jam this Bowmasters here. They're constrained on mana the same way that we are, kind of. This I don't mind, though, because now if they have like Murderous Cut or Fatal Push, we can daze that, which in fact is what I'm going to do. Daze this. I'll pick up the C, and they can daze back, and that's fine. Stoneforge versus Murktide. Chip for 1. So this would be a 5/5 Murktide here. Their Murktides would be a lot larger, but we do have Swords to Plowshares. I think I will Stoneforge here. And again, going to get the Cauldra. Basically, once the Cauldra is in play, it is outside of Brazen Borrower. It's going to be pretty much impossible for them to remove. They can have Shieldred's Edict. They can have... Yeah, Shieldred's Edict, Brazen Borrower are the outs that I can think of them having to the token. So they kept but didn't hit a land. Or, yeah. I was saying that they misused their Stifle last game. I think in that same vein, now that... Because I'm thinking about Stifle, I think I may just upkeep the Stoneforge activation and force them to cast Stifle on their upkeep. Because the Cauldron dealing them an extra 5 here, like, sure, it's relevant. Oh, they just didn't have it, okay. Carpet of Flowers. So they have 3 mana post-combat. Yeah, I guess I just misread that. I'm just not sure what they would have kept with that Ponder. Their sequencing has seemed a little bit odd to me. Bowmasters, sure, whatever. This Bowmasters matters not. Jam for 5. I'm going to Ponder here. Daze, Swamp, Wasteland. Daze probably not what I want. Wasteland, I could Wasteland their Wasteland so that I can maintain my colors. Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah, you get to ping me with your Orc, that's fine. Kill your Wasteland and pass the turn. I'm leaving up Spell Pierce here. So they've got 4 mana total. If they Murktide, I'm going to just wait until I untap before I plow it, I think, so that I don't get dazed. Jam for 5 again. I want to go back in a moment and check the game log to see if there was a moment, like, did they Ponder after I Stoneforged for Cauldra and then just didn't have an answer for Stoneforge into Cauldra? This feels like a Murktide. Ooh, Leovold. Sure. Leovold it's like a good card. It's true. Kinda doesn't do much. I'll activate, put the Jite into play, equip, attack. Yeah, this game has felt weird. This game has felt super weird. So I guess I'll Swords the Leovold now, and then I can kill both Bowmasters. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. I suppose I am tapping out and giving them an opportunity to get like Brazen Borrower here. So I suppose they can untap, make mana off of their Carpet, and then Brazen Borrow. Maybe that was wrong of me. Oh, they're going to dress down, remove indestructibility, and then kill the Germ token? Okay. That's respectable. I didn't really have outs to that. Like, there wasn't really, I think, a way around that particular play. Although now this looks like a Murktide Regent, so not 100% sure what's going on here. Yep. Murktide, draw a card. Sure. That's fine. Yeah, that was super weird sequencing because they dress down and then they don't get the counters on their Murktide regen, right? Yeah, I'm not super sure what was going on there. Like, what did you exile? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, exiled 3 things so that the Murktide would have been a 6/6. Murktide was not a 6/6. Just gonna jam for 5. Jam for 5, I guess I can play my own Murktide here. I don't even know what black spot. Are you trying to Murderous Cut this? Yeah, okay, you can Murderous Cut my Stoneforge, that's fine. Are they gonna chump block? You got it. I'm just gonna jam Murktide, 1, 4, and Delta, playing around their days, and then I can daze their Force. I'll just pick up the Tundra so that I can replay and hold up swords. They're going to draw a card. We've got 2 lethal threats in play. I feel pretty good about this spot where we are. All right, excellent. Currently 3-1. On to the next one. Back for round 5. We are playing for the 4-1. On the draw, got 2 pieces of removal, got Force, Daze, 3 lands, no cantrips, no proactive action. I think this is probably fine. It's not a particularly exciting hand. Daze on the draw is not necessarily where I want to be, but this has probably got enough game against enough of the format that I'm fine with this. Opponent leads on Trop. Trop Footfalls. Oh, I haven't played against Rhinos in a million years. Pest Control. Real good against Rhinos. It'll lead on Delta here. Rhinos often plays Wastelands, and I don't really want to get Wastelanded this early in the game. Tef is going to be pretty good if we resolve it. Play out our second Delta, pass the turn. Yeah, Tef is just very surprisingly good against Rhinos because it prevents the cascade from happening. It also will turn off their suspend. So I think just going to untap, jam this Teferi. We can both Force and Daze because we drew that Ponder, which I like. I think sometimes they play Blood Moon out of the sideboard, but I'm not... They haven't fetched in such a way that they would have it main deck. Tundra C, play Teferi. I'm willing to fight over this because it matters so much in the matchup. We've got removal spells to sort of try and clean up their... Yeah, we have removal spells to try and clean up their 2/2s and stuff. Let's let them cascade, and then we'll daze the Rhinos. Daze the Footfalls. And I'm going to pick up the C just so that we're insulated from them having Wasteland, because they could Wasteland us, and then we can't cast the Pest Control if we need to. Force of Negation. They have 2 cards left. I will Force back, pitching this Ponder. The Teferi really matters. Teferi resolves. So they could have Brazen Borrower to bounce the Teferi, or they could have Fire Ice or Stomp. I think that them Brazen Borrowing this is fine, because then I can just replay it. But if they Fire Ice it, then we don't get our Teferi. So I'm going to plus to play around Fire Ice, and Minskin Boo is pretty good. I don't think I was supposed to let the Minskin let the Footfalls go, because then the Teferi dies. But Minskin Boo is a very, very unfortunate card for them to have here. Additional C. I'm going to plus this. I think the way that this works is that the sacrifice is part of the resolution of the ability and not part of the activation. So we can plus, and then we can still kill the Boo if they decide to sacrifice to the... And that will prevent them from getting an attack this turn. I think that this is the way that... I think this works out the way that I want it to, but I am not 100% sure. They cannot cast this Footfalls. They don't get a token from the Minsk. And then I think they're going to attack and then try and kill. So we'll just Prismatic Ending the token. And then post-combat, they probably don't have anything to do with this with their Minskin Boo. I was feeling pretty good about this game until the Minskin Boo. Endurance? Sure. Endurance, shuffle my graveyard, shuffle your graveyard, shuffling their own graveyard back in. Okay. Okay, so it does work the way that I thought it did. So I'm going to Swords the Endurance so that they don't get to sacrifice and then draw cards. Second Pest Control. I think the way that I'm going to likely want to do this is pest control in response to whatever they do with Minsk, and then yeah, I mean I guess we could let that happen, and then cycle the other pest control. Would love a threat here. So do I cycle this pest control or do I keep it so that I can get another turn with Teferi? I think I'm going to keep this pest control. Force of will, not ideal. Pass back, sort of run this same play. I wonder if they have like a Dryad Arbor? That'd be interesting. No, okay. Yeah, there's no way the Dryad Arbor would be good, but I think it would be sweet here. So they're going to get another token, and we're just sort of like treading water against this Minskin Boo. You got it. You're going to attack. We'll pest control again. And then Murktide. All right. Murktide is solid. I think I'm going to draw a card here. Nothing to bounce. Ponder I don't mind. I suppose I will ponder. Force of will, Bowmasters, swords. Okay. So I think the line here is I'm going to put the Bowmasters on the bottom, put the force in the middle, put the swords on the top, draw the swords, and this will let me Murktide hold up swords. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then they can Minsk, and then they can attack. They can either like, and then they'll probably sacrifice the token to try and kill Teferi, or they'll attempt to, and we'll swords it, and then untap and have Force of Will up. And that ended up working out pretty well. And then we'll have Teferi, Murktide, and Force. We've got Murktide. We can Murktide kill the Minskin Boo next turn. I suppose we could get Gaunt if they have Brazen Borrower here, but they haven't had Brazen Borrower all game, so they would have had to have drawn it. I feel like they're just holding Cascade spells in their hand. Plus Teferi. Okay, and they've just conceded. All right, that was kind of tight, but ended up working out for us. Okay, things that I want are going to be Lavinia. Lavinia's pretty good. Possibly Thoughtseizes. You can sometimes go as deep as playing Surgical Extraction and then just kill the rest of their ability to make Rhinos after the first one, but I don't think that that's really where I want to be. I think Force of Negation is kind of where I want to be as well. Blue Blast hits basically just Minskin Boo, so let's see what I want to board out first. I think I can trim. I think GTA is not necessarily where I want to be, although GTA will allow us to keep like Minskin Boo under control. But if we have a GTA Online, I'm not worried about Minsk anyways. So we've got one out. I think maybe Prismatic Ending is not where I want to be. We can only X equals 3 it, and their stuff is either zeros for Rhinos or larger than that. Lavinia is definitely top of the pile. And then I think I like the Thoughtseizes more than I like Force of Negations. And then the question is, do I want some number of Force of Negations as well? And I think if I do, then I think I probably don't want Bowmasters. Bowmasters really only does anything if they get to 5 mana and they Lorien revealed. So I think I'm going to go -3 Bowmasters plus 2 Force of Negation and 1 Blue Blast. The Blue Blast gives me an out to a Blood Moon, but I will try and play around Blood Moon as much as I can with the island and the plains. Oh, I totally ignored this Spell Pierce. I'm going to... So we're on the draw. This hand just, like, doesn't do anything that matters here. Like, we can daze something and then have basically no follow-up. I'm going to mulligan this. This is much better. Yeah, this is much, much better. Okay. I'm going to keep this. I will put back... I think I will put back second Stoneforge. We're a little soft to a Wasteland on the Tundra, but this is what we're going to keep. Although maybe we go, like, put back Daze, or put back, like, Force of Negation. No, I want both Force and Daze, I think. So we'll put back a Stoneforge and see what they do. Opponent leads Basic Force. I'm going to lead on Delta and pass the turn. They're going to cycle Lorien Reveal, sure. They go to Volt. Okay. I think I'm going to get Plains Underground Sea here, and that prevents us from getting Wastelanded off of white. And then I think I'm just going to get Cauldra. That is a Force of Will, but in an awkward way. Okay. I will... So they pitched Elvish Spirit Guide to Mystical Dispute, paying mana, so I am going to daze their Mystical Dispute. And then they're going to force back. So then they have one card left. Okay, I will let the Force of Will resolve. And then there's no sequence in which they are able to. Oh, oops. They. I. I messed up the sequencing on that one. I thought that they were force of willing my days and not force of willing my Stoneforge. Well, that's rough. Big mistake on my part. Let's take them off of red. They missed their land drop this past turn, and then next turn we can Thoughtseize, and we just need to find another threat. But this trade was like sloppy on my part, I think. All right, Thoughtseize them. See what you're working with. 2 spells: Force of Negation, Mystical Dispute. I think I'll take the Mystical Dispute. They both cost 3 mana. Mystical Dispute can counter anything. Force of Negation can only counter non-creature, and only on my turn. So Mystical Dispute theoretically can protect their own stuff. We are very insulated now, so we can hard cast Force of Negation and have Force of Will, and then eventually we'll find a cantrip, and then this is the advantage of playing cantrips, is that we have selection and they don't. Continue to pass. Play our awkward draw go game right now. Pest Control. Okay. I don't think I'm going to cycle this Pest Control for the moment, because it's a very clean answer to a Rhinos. Keep passing back and forth, playing Drago. I think playing Drago favors us. I wonder how many tap lands they're playing. I mean, sure, you can have an Outburst. I will take I'll take 8 here, and then Pest Control, and that's just gonna be a way that we can 1-for-1 without tapping out into their like Mystical Dispute and Force of Negations and stuff. Murktide is pretty good here, so cast this Pest Control, black, white, hard cast a Force of Negation, and then I will also hard cast a Force of Negation. I'll get Tundra, get Underground. Nah, I'm going to get Tundra. We don't have very many black spells left in the deck. Opponent has 2 cards left in hand. If we resolve this Murktide and we don't die to something, then I think we're winning this game. It has a land. They can now hard cast a Force of Will. They didn't have a Mystical Dispute, or they would have played it last turn. Sure. You can ice my Underground Sea. Batterskull. Oh, Murktide as a 7/7. And then pass. Maybe there's an argument of making this like a 6/6, leaving a card in the graveyard in case they Brazen Borrow this, and then we can replay it. Yeah, like I'm not going to fight over Brazen Borrower here. So they have 1 card, drawing another card, Brazen Borrower 1 on. Okay. Teferi I really like. Okay. So let's Teferi. That's going to force them to cast this Brazen Borrower, which we can just let resolve. Oh, they're just going to hard cast a Force of Will on that. That was their last card. I think that's fine. Play my anemic 3/3 Murktide Regent for 5 and pass the turn. We get Sword Splashers for their Brazen Borrower. We can jam Batterskull. They've got 3 mana for Violent Outburst, probably. Brazen Borrower, sure. Oh, Simian Spirit Guide. All right, you can have that. That's fine. Do not care about that at all. Just gonna play this Batterskull and pass the turn. Don't really want to trade with the Brazen Borrower here. I will just take 3 if they attack. I'm not particularly worried about being at 3. They don't play Lightning Bolts. Yeah, the attack I think is good. Stoneforge, sure. Let's attack back with everything. Sort of see what their last card is, if anything. But the lifelink from the Germ token should just give us enough of a buffer. And then can Stoneforge Mystic, get Cauldra, and this game is locked up, I think. Yeah, I think I'm just going to pay the 3 mana for the Mystical Dispute. Yes, I will pay. They can't... There's no way that they can lethal us with no... Like, they cannot possibly lethal us with no cards in hand and their board state versus a Force of Will. I say that, and then it turns out that there's just, like, some card that exists that's a, like, 6 mana uncounterable haste. Some stupid green creature. Like, I'm sure that exists, but I feel like I would pack it in there here if I were them. No? Okay. Put this Cauldron into play and attempt to jam. Hullbreacher? Sure, you can have a Hullbreacher. I think, like, are you just going to double block this Germ token and chump block and avoid taking damage? Yeah, man, that's fine. We'll deal you 8 damage and kill all your stuff. Play out this Strand and pass the turn. And again, basically it's just like, we win the ground game, How do we not die? All right, awesome. So 4-1. I think I threw that D&T match away. So I'm gonna go back. If you're watching this, like my plan is to go back and like re-record commentary over that in response to my own commentary so that I can see where I went wrong. But okay, so let's take a look at this list real quick and sort of share some thoughts on what changes I may or may not want, what I think was good, what I think wasn't good. So the matches that we played were round 1 against Moon Stompy, round 2 against round 2 was against the Orzhov scam deck, like the black-white scam deck. Round 3 was the Death and Taxes match that we lost. Round 4 was against Sultai Beans, and then round 5 was against Rhinos. Beat all of our opponents except for the D&T player. So the D&T is often going to be a good deck against these sorts of like mid-rangey blue decks because you can kind of think about it in a way where we are playing stacks of sort of like almost blanks, right? So we're playing a combined quantity of like answers and threats that are, how many cards is this? 25 answers and threats in our 60 card deck with 16 cards that are like Force of Will, Daze, and then cantrips. And so the cantrips let us just find a better saturation of our threats and answers. And then the counter spells, so Daze can sometimes have applications, but is often going to be a blank against D&T because of Aether Vial, Cavern of Souls, stuff like that. And the Force of Wills are not really here for fair matchups. We boarded them out post-board. And then the cantrips are not threats or answers on their own, which means that in long, grindy games, if you're both playing cantrips, then you each have like the same quantity of these card selection spells, but against mid-range decks, your deck has more air in it than your opponent does. So for sort of like from a structural level, I think that fair cantrip decks are usually unfavored against D&T, depending on sort of the composition and the like how high impact the threat and answer suite is. So in terms of what is and isn't good against the Death and Taxes stuff, we've got like, Pest Control has applications. Stoneforge allows us to play sort of the same game as them with the ability to go big and sort of try and win a ground game. JT quite like. We ended up just getting overwhelmed, I think, by their quantity of stuff. And so I think that was a big contributing factor to that. I'm going to go back now, and so you'll have already seen my analysis of that game, like my post matchup analysis of that game when I go back. But I'm sure that that match was winnable if I had played tighter. I just, without going back and watching it, I'm not sure if I remember or can identify off the top of my head what those mistakes were. The rest of the matchups felt pretty good. Felt like we had a good like breadth of answers for the stuff that our opponents were doing, along with some pretty proactive and powerful stuff. The Samwises felt honestly really good. There was that match against Sultai Beans where I had the Wasteland, and then they had 2 lands in play, waste them, Samwise, waste them again. That was pretty good. That gave us a lot of time. If they had had more mana in that game, then we would have become buried under those beanstalks a lot more quickly and would have not had the time to find our Orcish Bowmasters, I don't think. Pest Control felt pretty good. There were moments where it was good. There were moments where it was bad. At the same time, though, like, it just didn't... I never drew it and I was like, this is awful. The card seems pretty good. Big fan of the Murktides in this deck. Overall, I was very happy with this threat suite. There are a couple of other equipments that we could be playing. A lot of people are playing the Coat. A lot of people are playing, there's the new 3 mana, it's like blue, white 1, exile a creature, and then when you equip the equipment to something, the creature that you equip becomes a copy of the exiled creature. I don't know if that's something that I want to be on. Um, I haven't played with either of those cards yet, and none of them, like Cryptic Code is probably worth the slot. I just don't know what I would trim instead. Maybe it's the main deck Teferi, maybe it's a third Murktide, but each of these feel like they've got applications in places. The Prismatic Endings felt probably like the weakest of the removal spells. Maybe Get Lost would be better in this slot instead. I'm not sure. The Wasteland Samwise mana base along with Daze felt really good. Really liked Daze in this deck. I'm not usually somebody who enjoys Daze in Stoneforge decks, but this felt really, really good here. Um, the sideboard felt pretty good. The I don't typically play an extra land in the sideboard, but I did like it in the matchups that we brought it in, having access to the 20th land and the additional basic land against opposing wasteland decks without needing to necessarily worry about being super cold to something like Blood Moon. Or there was a dynamic that I was talking about, I think, in the intro, where if you are able to play off of basics and wastelands, that puts you at an advantage against opposing wasteland dual land decks because it breaks parity in a really important way. So I think this was worth the slot. I don't know if it would be better than one of the main deck cards and just play the 20th land. I'm not sure. And then board it out in some matchups instead of boarding it in. I would have to think about that a little bit more. We didn't see any of these sort of like combo decks that we would have wanted the Damping Sphere against or the Lavinia necessarily, but the Lavinia was perfectly fine in some other matchups. I liked most of this in the sideboard. The Thoughtseizes we didn't bring in a ton. Brought it in against Sultai and against the Rhinos deck, but they felt pretty solid. So yeah, overall, I like this deck. Obviously, the entire metagame is going to get shaken up in a couple of weeks, and so this was mostly just an opportunity for me to play a card that has been an all-time favorite of mine, Stoneforge Mystic, before before the end, or before quote unquote legacy rotation, as people say. But yeah, I hope that y'all enjoyed sort of this journey with me with Esper Stoneblade. I enjoyed this list, and catch you in the next one. Looking for something else to watch right now? Subscribe for future videos. Check out my breakdown of Soul Lands and Legacy. It's a quick 15 minutes covering the dynamics of Soul Lands and the decks that they're played in.